What's up, guys? It's your boy, Barca Boy 103, and welcome to another video on the channel where today we're going to be taking a pre-look at Barcelona's season ahead for the 25-26 season, the second season under Hansi Flick, and the season following a domestic treble, of course, being 1 week away from the quadruple. The question really is, what are the expectations for next season, and what are the things to look out for? I could not do this on my own, so I've recruited Mr. Dan Hilton from the Barcelona podcast. You want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, for those who don't know, Barca Boy's been doing this a little bit. I've been doing it a little bit longer, not too much, but yeah, we've been at it. We've been grinding, coming up on almost a decade doing this stuff. So whether it's Barca blog or the Barcelona podcast, unfortunately, I would love to say that I'm excited if I'm new to you or new people that have never heard of me before, because I've been doing it. I feel like I've reached everybody, but I'm excited to reach everybody. It's Barcelona podcast on all platforms. It's YouTube stuff, it's videos, it's watch-alongs, it's podcasts, it's a lot of FC Barcelona. I don't know.
Yeah, all his links will be down in the description, so if you haven't done so already, make sure you check him out. But today's video, of course, will be focusing on the following season coming up. We, of course, as of this moment, we have not confirmed any signings. We know that one is coming pretty soon, and we are expecting a few more, and of course, exits as well. But I want to take away from the signings, but I want to mainly focus on what to expect for next season following, the huge success. I would say our biggest and best season maybe since the Luis Enrique MSN days. I want to firstly ask, what was your expectation going to this season that we just had? For me personally, I said a good season would be one trophy, any trophy, Super Cup, League, Champions League, and minimum quarterfinals in the Champions League. That for me was my expectation going to the season we just had. And of course, we've passed with flying colors. People would say we had a perfect season, even though we didn't win all the trophies as well. But what was your expectations going to this first season with Flick?
I mean, mine was win all four, of course. Mine was Champions League, 5
realistic expectations.
No, I think mine was actually very similar. I think mine was, can you exercise the Champions League demons? I think was one of mine. That's why even that win over Bayern Munich early in October kind of helped me take that breath to say, okay, this team is a little different. There's a good vibe here. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. And to exercise those Champions League demons, to me, it felt like, yes, making the quarterfinals was definitely going to do that. It was, can you get past one knockout round? And to me, it was even pushed towards the semifinals. I think that was a fair expectation with how the team could have been. And then to me, it was a Liga or Copa del Rey. I think it's really tough to win a lot of different trophies. So I did not expect the Liga. I did pick Real Madrid to win the Liga. So Copa del Rey, I felt like Barcelona won that more than any other team. I think to win a trophy with Hansi Flick coming in tow with the ideas he had and the excitement of the team, I felt like, yes, this team could win something. But the fact that they did all the winning they did and got to the semifinals, of course, I think they exceeded the expectations, and we can all admit that.
For sure, especially coming off the back of, trophyless underperforming season as well. I think anything but semi-success we would have taken, and we've been given much more than that. Like you mentioned on the show that we just did on your channel, only losing 8 games the whole season. Of course, not winning everything, but returning Barcelona's name and style of play back into the view of world football, which was missing a lot. But going to the next season, I think signings for me personally won't change too much into what I think. So I'll say what I expect going to next season first. I would still say, again, in terms of Champions League, I would want minimum quarterfinals. I think a lot of it comes down to the draw, how difficult it is, how easy it is. I think quarterfinals is a good stage to be in. Last 8, by then it's just basically luck and whether the referee 50-50 decisions and calls come your way. In terms of domestically, I think it's a bit harsh to say, I expect you to win all 3 and retain all 3. But I will say I do expect 2. And the reason for that is I believe that the Spanish Super Cup is gaining a lot of value. Winning that trophy mid-season, we're most likely going to face Real Madrid in a final 9 times out of 10. And winning it just gives us such a boost. I think that Super Cup final we had 5-2 that we won this past beginning of the year was, I wouldn't say the sole reason, but 90% of the reason why we had our success in second half season. Of course, not losing a game until that second leg. I think Super Cup value, of course, in terms of the ranking of 4 trophies is in fact the lowest, but I think the value it brings in the middle of the season to get that winning feeling against, again, most likely 9 times out of 10 being your rivals Real Madrid. So I would say winning that would be a huge priority as well. But in terms of, actual accomplishments, I would say quarterfinals of the Champions League, winning 2 of the 4 trophies. And I would say as well, winning a fair amount of El Clasicos. I think for me, I do value El Clasico wins in the season. Of course, we only know that 2 are guaranteed. We had, of course, 5 last season. Sometimes you only have 2. Sometimes you have 7 that we had under the Pep and Mourinho days. But I do personally value Clasico wins a lot, and I would say that you have to win the first one at the new Spotify Camp Nou. Losing that would be quite hurtful. Whether it be, in a narrow fashion or a demolition fashion. We know that Madrid are going to be strengthening this summer as well. Just winning that game would be, I think, a true icing on the cake for me. But that's what I would say domestically in terms of, trophies and stuff. I think a style of play and dominance, I would expect the same from the previous season. I'm hoping that the high line and style of play will improve, as Flick has mentioned a lot of times that he knows where the issue are with the high line, which we've seen frailties in the past few months, us conceding a lot of goals, still playing well, but conceding the goals here and there to put us in dangerous situations where we have to rely on Lamine Yamal to get us out of debt. So I'm expecting the high line defensively to improve as well. But what do you have as your expectations going into next season?
Yeah, I think this team is deep enough to that point to win 2 trophies of the 4 they're going to be going for. I think that's a very fair expectation. I think they're a bit deeper than Real Madrid, at least on who they can trust and where they put players. But I do think for La Liga, my expectation would be no lower than second, because I do think that Xabi Alonso is going to come in and he's going to galvanize that team. I mean, Real Madrid went trophyless this season. They had to look at Barcelona continuing to raise trophies. And I think that's going to light a little bit of fire in Real Madrid, and it is a little bit about them. And I think they'd like to recapture that narrative in Spain that they are the team to beat as well. Unless this season, that Xabi Alonso wants to go to war with the refs as well, and they spend all their time worrying about that. That'd be great. But I do still think Barcelona and Real Madrid. My kind of fear for La Liga next season, but also I think it's totally fair. A duopoly might be possible again. That would mean that Atletico Madrid would drop off, and maybe they won't. But I think that Barcelona and Real Madrid, now when you look at their squads, are just better than what Atletico Madrid and Athletic Club and Villarreal and Real Betis and Real Sociedad and some of the other clubs in Spain that you think could push the top 2. I think there's clearly a top 2, and anything less than second for Barcelona next season league would be disappointment. And to that point about the quarterfinals of the Champions League as well, even with the draw, I think because of the league phase we saw, I think Barcelona would obviously, yes, you'd want to finish top 16, but I think top 8, again, is a realistic expectation. But as we just saw in the Champions League, that group phase is a crapshoot. It really is. It does depend on what teams you get, home or away, and all those different things.
But of course, don't forget, this season, they're going to be doing it based on whoever finishes higher will have the home advantage. So from this past season, we would have gotten all the home leg second. I know we had the San Siro's second in the semifinals, so they had that rule that they're going to implement next season into this past season. We would have had San Siro first, then Montjuic second leg.
Well, that's delightful. So using that next season, I would hope that Barcelona can finish in the top 8 of that league phase. And I think that's a fair expectation. And then again, use that to get at least to the quarterfinals again. So I think that's really fair and timid, but I know you're going to follow up with why I think that the team could be even better this season and next season, because I do think even sans transfers, there's some internal growth that could happen.
Yeah. I want to ask you, I think this question kind of came to mind while we were discussing. Of course, we are set to return back home to the Spotify Camp Nou. Do you think that will have an impact on the team? Of course, they had 2 rough years at the Montjuic at the Olympic Stadium, where the fans are quite far away. Of course, the Grande Animation, the animation stand was removed from the November until present day, so we had no true atmosphere 9 times out of 10 in games at the Montjuic. You think the Spotify Camp Nou will bring us, a little reassurance, a little extra boost, extra lifeline in our first season? Because I do expect Barcelona, not of course this season, but the following season after that, to most likely host a Champions League final. Because we've seen over the past, few years, whenever a new stadium is built and done, they tend to host a Champions League final. We've not had a Champions League final in the Camp Nou since 1999 when United won it. So I'm expecting one to come very soon. And I would absolutely love it to win it there. But what do you think your Camp Nou impact will have on this team next season?
Well, I'd say I need to have more hot takes on my own show, because your questions are the things that invigorate me to zag. And I'm actually going to zag on you quite a bit here. I'm a big basketball fan. I know, again, if you want to hear more about basketball stuff and basketball comparisons, that's with the Barcelona podcast. You get it a few months. If you don't like basketball, again, still listen up. So Madison Square Garden, maybe also because I'm in New York, I'm a little bit biased here, but Madison Square Garden, especially when the Knicks were fine, not good, that place, yes, it's an atmosphere. There's just so much noise. It's one of the best places in the NBA to play. But players on the opposition team don't necessarily play poorly there. Even with everybody shouting, it is such a verified ground, such a glorified ground that everybody kind of just wants to be there. And I think with this Spotify Camp Nou, it's going to be such an atmosphere that to me, the positive of it is going to make a ton of money for FC Barcelona, and it's going to help pay for the champagne football we know. So I think the Spotify Camp Nou is going to galvanize this team to enjoy their football, which means I don't think this team is ever going to get too low too long. So I think that the Spotify Camp Nou is going to have a positive influence on the team itself more than it is going to like strike fear in opposition, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I don't view the Spotify Camp Nou as like Borussia Dortmund, right? Is this fortress or whatever. I think Barcelona are going to, very much like they are, going to overwhelmingly win at home. And I think the fans are going to love what they're going to do. And they're going to love the way that they win. And they're going to enjoy the football that they watch. And of course, Lamine Yamal is going to be, he's already a global superstar, but the levels of stardom that are possible in front of 100,000 people week in and week out it's hard to fathom, and hopefully great for your and I channels with content. But yeah. That's my little zag here, where I don't know if I'm going to say like that it gives them home field advantage, but what it is going to do, it's going to make a, excuse my French, but a crap ton of money for Barcelona. They're going to buy a bunch of exciting players, and they're going to play really great football because they've got 100,000 people getting in that gate. And this is to bore your listeners a little bit, or your viewers a little bit, the gate revenue at FC Barcelona is a huge part of their profit margins. So yeah, getting 100,000 people in the door to watch champagne football, that sounds great to me, and the results will follow.
I think it will have quite a big significance. If you think about it, Lamine Yamal has played one game at the Camp Nou in that little cameo that he came on in the double season under Xavi. You look at Kubarsi as well, who's never played at the Camp Nou either as well. I think it will have a significant impact, because I think the Montjuic did kill the Barca vibe a little bit, especially after our poor season under Xavi where we won nothing. I think it definitely came back. We know, you and I have watched Barcelona for a long time. We know that 9 times out of 10 there's no real atmosphere unless it's a big game. I think when we have, medium games, there will be an atmosphere if the team is down, but we kind of walk into that game with the cigar thing, hey, we're going to watch some 5-0, 4-0, whatever, maybe if they need our help, we'll jump in. But I think, after this 2 seasons of not being there, all the local fans who make the trip most of the time to the Montjuic, it's going to be tough for them. Even again for the players as well, the anticipation of waiting for the stadium as well. We were supposed to be back there this season and never, of course, came to fruition. I genuinely thought we'd be back there for the Champions League knockout rounds, and of course, that never came to happen. So I think it will have a little bit. I think it will have, of course, more of an impact once we do get confirmed as Champions League final host. I don't know if we're going to host a World Cup final first or Champions League final first, but I do expect a big game at the Camp Nou, and I hope it's for a game that Barcelona can play in. But the kind of final question I do want to wrap up is on player perspective. What player would you think... 2 questions. What player do you have next season that you have high expectations for, maybe that this season either performed really well or could have improved? And who's a player that you think that you could be a low-key kind of huge impact on Barcelona, like we've seen, for example, Fermin Lopez over the past 2 years? Maybe last season's package could have been Casado, for example. Who do you see that going into this upcoming season?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think there's a bunch of different ways to answer this. And we were talking about it on my show about it's really hard to go from being a star and a trusted player into like that vaunted category. So let me begin with the top. And how can Lamine Yamal improve? If that guy scores more goals than he did even this season, like I don't want to put a cap on his superstar status. Like I think we're very tentative, and I'm tentative to say, if that kid is what he is right now forever for 12 years, sign me up, please. He never has to improve anything. Just stay the way you are. You're perfect the way you are. Like, just continue doing what you do. But if that kid figures out how to score a little bit more than not just bangers, if he figures out how to find some space on like a near post run occasionally or whatever it is, like if he finds out to score other kind of goals and becomes that all-encompassing threat that, again, I'm going to whisper this as much as I can, but that Messi was. Like, if he really does figure out how to score all these different goals, gosh, like that would just then take Barcelona even more to the stratosphere, because they continue to do with everybody else, refortifying that. I want to go to midfield internally, because yes, transfer is very exciting. So like Juan Garcia, very excited about that transfer and all those things if he does come to Barcelona. But in the case of Gavi and Marc Bernal in particular, recovering from the ACLs. Now, Bernal, I don't put any expectations on him. A reminder, too, that he is 18 years old because he just turned 18 3 weeks ago. So this is he was 17 all of last year as he recovered from the ACL. He's going to be 18 this season as he recovers. All indications reports are that it's going well. But Bernal, anything he gives me this season, I'd be very excited. But he could give even more than we think. And I don't want to put expectations on him, but I'm very excited to see what he has. And Gavi Gabi came back really well, and I do have some expectations that Gabi is going to be able to also kind of push the needle on what we can expect from him. And I don't want to put him in a box either. I think this past season, I can say and chalk that up to that is year one of post ACL recovery. And also a reminder that Gabi is 20 years old. He turns 21 in August. So he's still just 21 for all of next season. So I kind of want to say that young players can get better. So I'm most excited, obviously, about the expectation. I'm not putting expectations on them, but I'm excited about young players. So, and what I will leave you with is there is two names in particular for next season that I'm putting a little bit of expectations on. Is that I do think come preseason, while he's not expected to be with the first team, hopefully Torrens, depending on what happens with Gerard Martin and who a left back that the club might bring in, we might be getting a little more of hopefully Torrens than we think. He's just 18, so everybody calm down. That's a name you might see. And then I'm really high on Tony Fernandez, and I think that if he plays 800 minutes next season as a backup to Lamine Yamal, that would be great. And I do think that he has the ability to play the 10. He can play on the right wing. And so I think preseason-wise, last season he already did in the preseason. I think he's going to do the same thing again. And this season it's going to be more of Hansi Flick saying, I don't think I can actually send him back down. I might have to keep him up with the first team. So that is just my very tentative early, I'm excited for those players, and they're very young. And I have no expectation for the likes of Lewandowski. He scored 42 goals this season for Barcelona. So listen, give me 32 from Lewandowski, and I'll still be happy because, again, Lamine Yamal, even Fermin Lopez, like if the young players continue to improve and a new winger is brought in who's going to score 12, 15 goals, like I'm really happy and have high expectations about how this team can even be better than they were last season. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Kubarsi. I mean, how's Kubarsi going to improve? I don't know, but sounds good to me.
Yeah, I want to really piggyback off your La Masia incorporation there, because I do want to agree. Of course, Jeffrey Torrens, like you mentioned, is a huge talent. Whether or not we sign a left back or the future of Gerard Martin will decide the minutes he gets in preseason. But I'm really fond of Giri Fernandez. I think there's, of course, very hard for me to get to this midfield, like we already mentioned with the hype about other players that I will touch about. But even Tony Fernandez as well. I think the player that I'm excited for the most is, in fact, Daniel Rodriguez, who will unfortunately miss preseason with that dislocated shoulder that he did get against Valladolid. And I do think that Flick does rate Danny highly. According to reports, he will be in the first team next season. He will be kind of that fourth winger choice that you think that maybe Tony Fernandez could take from him, which of course he definitely can if Danny is out injured too long. Had a great campaign last season with Barca Athletic, as I'm sure you know, even with the under 19 Euros, I believe it was, or under 21 for Spain this past summer. Came with big expectations that Flick wanted to trust him, especially during that time where Lamine got injured in October for 2 weeks and November for a month, but he was unfortunately injured at the time. So he's one that I'm also looking out for. But you kind of hit the nail on the head there with the players I have expectations for next season. And for me, it is Gavi. Like you mentioned, with Bernal that he's experienced this season, Gavi got his one season last season. That's the past. Post ACL, you can perform a 2 out of 10. I'll still think you're one of the best midfielders in the world. But this season, and we saw in the last few games of the season how well he played against Espanyol, against remember the two last games, Villarreal and Athletic Club. He put in two remarkable performances, and I can definitely see a midfield with Gavi in it next season some way, somehow. I don't know who drops out. I don't know if you're gonna move Pedri into the 10. I don't know if you're gonna drop Frankie completely, but the unique talent and ability that Gavi has, and I say this a lot on my channel, is that any team in the world would take him. It's not like Frankie where, you have this player, you have Y player, you don't want Pedri because you have Vitinha, this and that. Gavi is a player for me that every team in the world would take in a heartbeat. And that's why for me, I do have decent expectations for him, and I think he will become the surprise package. I can definitely see him come crunch time of the season, second half of the season 2026, him being the mainstay in that midfield. With Bernal, it'll be nice. I think, again, we go on ability. I think he definitely can be a starter in this team, but, post ACL, he's going to take his time. I can see him coming back around like Gavi did, October, November time. I don't think he'll come back anytime before that. And for a player where I have expectations for, it's kind of one that we hinted on your show as well. It is for me Ferran Torres. Like I said on your show as well, that he finally had his first good season with over 25 goals and assists. The past few seasons have been kind of 10, 9 goals and assists. With the investment that we did make heavily in him, I think last season he kind of showed his true colors that we can see from him. Especially with Lewandowski gonna be dropping off, like you mentioned, he won't produce another 40 goal season, I don't think, unless he's an absolute machine. He's gonna not be playing international duty for now, so that may help. And I would say for me, I kind of expect. You said you expected 30 goals for Lewandowski. Was it 30 or 32?
I said if you gave me 35 from him, I would absolutely sign up for that.
I would sign up for 25. If you give me 25 right now, I would sign up for it because
I think 30 is still a reasonable ask. He did score 42, and the way he does score his goals, I do think, again, not playing international duty, I think Robert Lewandowski, even at the ripe old age of 37 next season, for all of next season, I still think that guy, I mean, and he's got to do it for the mid-30 something. You know, I got a birthday this week, so I got to support the mid-30 guys, but at 37 all next year, I still do think that because of the way he scores his goals, now he might have less minutes, but he scores goals in a way that I think is still applicable for next year. Mm-hmm. As long as he stay on the field. That's my concern for him and his age.
Yeah.
Can he stay on the field?
So we can both agree that we are going to see, you know, less than 42 goals. I think that Ferran Torres will have to be that one that steps up to provide. Of course, you can maybe hope that Lamine will get more than his, I think, 13 or 14 goals. I'm expecting a bit of a drop-off from Rafinha as well, which is definitely fine from this Ballon d'Or 10 out of 10 season that he has had.
What about Dani Olmo? Because Dani Olmo scored 12 last year, and do we expect him to stay healthy?
I do hope that Julio Toulouse can work his magic that he did with Pedri and working on right? on Dani Olmo and do something. I would say that I would not expect anything less from Dani Olmo, just more or the same. I think if he does do less, I would be disappointed. But for Lewandowski and where my Ferran Torres point came in, I think there will be some goals that are going to be dropping out. Rafinha, I think, drop a little bit. Maybe Lemmy will even that out, bring that up a bit. I think Lua will drop down. So I think that Ferran Torres really needs to stay on pace. He got to, like you mentioned, 16 goals, I believe it was, or 19 goals last season. I expect that around that, and that's where I have my bit of a doubt. If he underperform that or over, I think he will get more minutes, especially with Lewandowski, I believing to drop off a little bit in terms of high level fitness. So I would say Ferran the one to watch in terms of, you know, improvement and staying on track, and Gabby's kind of my underrated shout for someone that have a real impact on this team. But we are hoping for an exciting and better season next season, where we can hopefully take that next step and the trophy that we've been alluding now for 11 years. And I think about winning that trophy and it just makes me tear up. So I really don't mind us not winning, because I don't want to cry as a grown man live on video. But then again, I do really want to see it. So I'm a bit in the middle, you know, seesaw situation. But I will definitely take it, and hopefully we can accomplish it. Anything you want to, you know, end off for next season that you want to end off on the video for?
Well, Eric Garcia had 5 goals this year, so anything less than 15, and I'm disappointed.
Well, with him staying now, with him and Koundé kind of being the mainstay as right backs, I don't know.
I'm kidding. Everyone has to know that I'm kidding. So, no, my expectation, how about this? I'll end you with this expectation. For anyone listening, for Barca Boy, listen, him and I, subscriber-wise on YouTube here, we both, I know we can't expect 100,000, but I would love to see. That's my expectation. Barcelona wins the Champions League. You and I both hit 100K here. We get our little YouTube the plaques, the YouTube 100,000. So that's what I want from everybody. So if you're not subscribing to Barca Boy or to the Barcelona Podcast Up, subscribe to our YouTube channels. Get us that 100,000, and Barcelona's going to win the Champions League, and everybody's going to be happy. That's what I want. That's my perfect world in June of 2026.
Because the Champions League win will probably, of course, entail hopefully more viewership as well. So it all comes as the, you know, a collective package, as you know, we're used to. So hopefully we both get what we want, and hopefully the viewers as well can get what they want as well. But that's going to be the end of this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, of course, make sure you drop a like down below and subscribe down below as well if you haven't already. And make sure, of course, check out the Barca podcast. His link will be in the title and in the description. And your thoughts in the comments as well. What's your expectation for next season? Do you think the Camp Nou will have an impact? What would be your surprise player next season? What player do you expect to have an important season or a key role for us to develop and to strive to do huge things next season? But do all that, drop a like, subscribe down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care, and Forza Barca.
Yeah.